Man, that's bright. Mm. Lane 1Q, I always overlook it. It smells amazing from a secondhand standpoint. And it tastes pretty decent from a first-hand standpoint. I don't know. For an aromatic, it's hard to beat Lane 1Q. I think it's my staple. It's my go-to. Lifewell, long time no see, man. Smoking some Lane 1Q straight, not mixing it, not blending it. I haven't done this in a long time. As Christmas is approaching, although I'm not an aromatic smoker, I wanted something that had some kind of Christmassy vibe without being sickeningly sweet. And I think Lane 1Q is kind of the Goldilocks. Not too sweet, not too bitey, fragrant, delicate, maybe. A healthy dose of propylene glycol, which keeps it shiny. It's the only aromatic I've had in a long time. I'm trying to think from some exceptions. Aromatics are very controversial. I'm trying to think of an aromatic. I don't consider like a navy blend an aromatic. If it's rum topped, I don't really consider that to be an aromatic, unless it gets really strong. It's a good question. Is navy slices or navy rolls considered an aromatic? That's a question up for debate. Deluxe navy rolls. Let me look it up here. Hold on a second. Everybody knows they're delicious. Everybody knows they're crazy expensive. But are they considered an aromatic? Let's see here. Deluxe navy rolls. Tobacco reviews. I'm gonna guess no, but we'll see. Yes, I am 21 years old. Deluxe navy rolls are made in Denmark using hand-stripped Virginia tobaccos from Brazil and Africa. Married? They should just say mated with, not married with. Married with Perique from Louisiana. This recipe produces an aromatic smoke. Whoa, there's no rum? I didn't think you'd have a navy tobacco without rum. What makes it navy if there's no rum in it? Just it's a question, or it's more of a statement. How can Peterson's Deluxe Navy Rolls be Navy Rolls with no rum in it? Anyway, it's got a 3.56. Pretty good review. But it is not considered an aromatic. Probably because it has no rum in it. I'll be damned. I thought a navy tobacco by definition was rum infused or basted in rum. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Benjamin Carter. Had some Bob's chocolate flake earlier. I remember that. Came in a green tin, as I recall. I only ordered one tin myself, which felt seasonally appropriate. I'm going to push back a little bit on that one, Mr. Carter. What I found back in 2015 when I bought that tin art looked great. Cracked it open. The tin note was great. But when I smoked it, now given this is a sample size of one, or 20. It was 20 bowls, one tin. It's called a sample size of 20. I felt it was like a Latakia bomb that was lightly dusted with cocoa flakes. And God knows you can't smoke chocolate and get a chocolatey smell. So anyway, I appreciated it when I bought it. I respected it when I bought it. I never buy it again, mostly because I'm just not a Latakia guy anymore. But I definitely wouldn't consider it a seasonal blend, unless you consider Latakias in general a seasonal blend, and then I could see it. But there's not a lot of chocolate. I speak from experience. There's a lot of. I've actually smoked quite a few chocolate aromatics, which are trying to infuse chocolate within oils or sprays of some kind. It never works out well. It can smell great in the bag. It can smell great in the tin before you light it, but I just don't think it's possible to light chocolate flavored oil and for it to burn and taste like chocolate. I could be wrong, but these are my experiences. Navy flakes often do have rum. Yeah, thank you. Ah, okay. I thought Bob's chocolate flake was definitely Latakia. I'll check here in a minute. Well, Latakia doesn't die off that much. We'll see. I pulled it up. It's coming up here in a second. Gallowith and Hogarth Bob's Chocolate Flake. Surprisingly, it's only got a 3.0 review on tobaccoreviews.com, the trusted repository of tobacco reviews that we all go to. The count of reviews is incredibly high, 257 reviews. Being a statistics guy myself, that's incredibly high. It's got a 3.0, not great. And I'm just going to go to, I always like to sort by the newest review because blends change. I don't like to look at reviews a decade ago. So I'm going to say sort by newest. The supply chain changes as well, obviously. Let's see what the newest review of Bob's Chocolate Flake is. It was July of this year. 4-star review. Wow, interesting. Everybody mentions Latakia though. Latakia this, Latakia that. It is. I think it's a Latakia bomb from both memory. I got a little bit of evidence here. Sorry. Correction. There's a review here February of last year, the second most recent. The guy says, first, what I thought it was, it'd be a typical Lakeland blend with a nice floral note. I'm talking about Bob's Chocolate Flake. And a mild taste of dark chocolate with Latakia kicker. That's what his expectation was going to be. The reality was almost no Lakeland essence at all. Almost zero Latakia found, or ever so slightly, and maybe a hint of dark chocolate taste. This was a burley forward and Virginia blend shredded flake. It had perfect moisture out of the tin. It was very nice chocolate tin note. Again, tin notes don't matter, right? It matters what it smokes like, not what it tastes like in the tin. No Lakeland essence. He's repeating himself here. He gave it a 2 out of 4. So, yeah, I never met someone who smoked Bob's chocolate flake and was like, wanted to buy the coffee mug, Bob's chocolate flake. I've never found. There's a lot of weird people in this community, but I've never met one that pledged. I never met one that pledged allegiance to Bob's chocolate flake. That's what I'm trying to say. I've met a lot of people who pledged their life and their firstborn to other blends, but not Bob's chocolate flake. I wouldn't advise doing the same. What am I smoking? Smoking Lane 1Q, which is a little bit heretical for me. Not a big aromatic smoker, traditionally. Had a very short aromatic pipe smoking career. I was smoking Palmetto Balkan later this evening. I think you mean earlier this evening. You can't smoke something later than what it is right now. Just the time warp continuum problem. As it started getting colder, that has a lot of Latakia comparatively. Oh, there's a lot of Latakia bombs out there. I recall Larry's blend from Hearth and Home. That was a lap bomb. Although that was a classy lap bomb. I swear it was a Balkan. I think it had Oriental tobacco in it. Pirate Cake, also a huge lap bomb. I bought a single 2-ounce tin one time just to experiment with it. Way too much Latakia for me. Way too much. It's like it'd be like someone who says I love IPAs and then you just feed them straight hops. Like Pirate Cake was overkill. Later than Bob's. I prefer English and Balkan blends. But I think I always separate Balkan blends from English blends for me. And I know it seems like a very overly analytical distinction between English and Balkan, but for me it's not. In my experience, I'm talking about definitions first of all. So English blends are only called Balkan blends if they have Oriental in them. So you can kind of think of it as Balkan is a child of English of a certain type. But the tobacco that ruined me was a Cornell and Deal blend called Sunday Picnic. I'll tie the story together here in a second. I smoked Sunday Picnic. I thought it was the most amazing tin I ever had very early in my pipe smoking career. And I turned the tin around and it said Oriental tobaccos, and I started Googling what Oriental tobaccos are, and then looked at other blends that had Orientals in them. I was trying to figure out, why is this so much different? Why is Sunday Picnic so much different than every other Virginia Burley hybrid blend I've had? And then I found out that a certain type of English blend had Oriental in it, and that's how I kind of hold on, I'm playing jazz in the speaker. It's throwing me off. Someone made a comment here I was going to reference. That's how I got into Balkan blends. Balkan blends are essentially English with Oriental, and there's a synonym for Oriental tobaccos. They call it Turkish tobacco sometimes, depending on the tin. You turn it around, it says Turkish. You turn another tin around, it says Oriental. It's essentially the same class of tobaccos. But the wildest thing is that they have a sour taste. Usually sour sounds like a horrible thing. Why would you want to smoke anything sour? And as someone who is not infatuated with sour cream, it's hard to describe why Oriental tobaccos are delicious. Because everything you would use to describe it seems like something you would not purposely want to taste. I don't know. It's strange. I've smoked through this already, and I kind of reused the tin. But After Hours is a rum topped, lightly topped Virginia tobacco that I've enjoyed many times. I just reused the tin to travel lighter from the 8-ounce tins that I usually order. And this is I gotta think of what this is. Oh, new comments. TP. I recognize that acronym. I think it means Thomas from Philadelphia. But I recognize the unique spacing between the letters. Smoking some Cornell and Deal tonight with a Mentos Chaser. Mentos, highly underrated. The first time I had a Mentos, I think I was like 14 years old, after I'd seen the Spanish commercials in the Midwest, which made no sense. I thought it was like an exotic candy. But the first time I had a Mentos, my whole life changed. Can never go back. There is nothing that describes the unique quality, flavor, texture, crunchiness, savoriness. And when it's cold out, the candy coating shatters. It's crazy. Mentos are just incredible. I recommend the Mentos before every bowl, or in between bowls. You guys remember Nestle's Quick? The strawberry powder you put in milk, and it had such a unique, hardcore strawberry granular flavor. You knew it was fake strawberry, but it was like an intense fake strawberry. Strawberry Nestle's Quick. There's nothing better. If I could drink, if I could raise strawberry cows that just gave off strawberry milk, I think that'd be the peak for me. I would buy a herd of cows, raise genetically engineered strawberries, and just feed the cows with strawberries. Nothing but strawberries. And grain. I think cows need grain. It's a bovine thing. But even the grain, I would dust with Nestle's Quick and try to get the most organic version of strawberry milk ever possible. I think it's a worthy endeavor. If you can milk a cow and get strawberry milk, that would be that would be an incredible feat, representative of a life work. I've been on a sardine kick the last 2 months. I think as of today, I think I've consumed 25 different tins of sardines, which is an incredible feat. The hardest part about eating sardines is is waking up in the morning and trying to convince yourself that the first thing in your mouth should be cold fish. But it's a mental block I'm trying to get over. If I can convince myself to eat sardines for breakfast, which I've done just a few times, but it is challenging. It is incredibly challenging. It's hard enough to eat sardines for lunch, but for breakfast, you got to really man up. Take a couple deep breaths. And here's the thing: it's actually not the taste of sardines that is the toughest to get down. It's the density and the richness. It's like the same reason why people don't eat raw eggs. It's not because they would taste bad. It's because it would be so damn thick and dense and cold that it would just be actually hard to swallow. And the same thing is true for sardines. They're so soaked in oil or tomato sauce that even a small bite is like, I don't know. The only comparison I can give is try to watch someone eat like dates. Dates are so dense and so rich that you take a bite of a date and you're like, I think I'm good for a minute. It's almost overwhelming with richness. Kind of like sausage too, a very fatty sausage. It's actually hard to eat quickly. There's a reason why nobody goes back for a second helping of gizzards or livers. LiPo, when's the last time you had sardines? I actually have a custom package that arrived today of a dozen tins of sardines. I think Adam Driver is on Saturday Night Live tonight in about 1 hour from now, at least on the East Coast. Although I think Saturday Night Live broadcasts the same time. No, that can't be right. They must delay it. They have to delay it. Otherwise, SNL would broadcast at 7 o'clock on the West Coast. That wouldn't make any sense. Hmm. Oh, that's a good blend. Ashton pipe tobacco? No. No, definitely have not. I bought a lot of random tins, but never Ashton. I kind of miss Patriot Flake. Patriot Flake was by, I mean, it had a Revolutionary War soldier on the tin, but Patriot Flake was made by, I can't think, some custom shop, smaller brand. I forget the name. Dan Tobacco, Patriot Flake. That's what it was. Hmm. I forgot what's in the description of the video. Has anyone here seen Godzilla -1, which I saw last weekend? A lot of buzz about that movie. Lifeball, I would say, as of today, 2023, I would say 11 years. 11 years. 2011, I'm thinking. I think this is Cajun cake from Cornell and Deal. I knew I had a brick out here. Let me see what I ordered last time. Cajun cake. Yeah, that's what I got. I got Cajun cake. It's it's a vapor. It is. I'm reading the reviews right now. I kind of have a stomach of steel, so I don't really. I'm not too spice sensitive, but apparently Cajun cake is a. Let me get my bearings here. Apparently, it's pretty. It's a pretty Perique rich tobacco. I have no issue with Perique. I don't crave Perique, but I have no issue with it. Although I do like the peppery notes of Perique. I'm a huge fan of black pepper. I don't think I've ever had anything that had too much pepper. Things can be too salty, but in my opinion, very rarely can be too peppered. And this guy's talking about Cajun cake in the tobacco review that it's extremely peppery. Now that I'm smoking Cajun cake, I would agree. It's very perique peppery. I almost forgot about it, but I think some cigars have a retrohale that's kind of peppery. I forget the filler that you need for a cigar to be peppery, but I'm a huge pepper fan. There's nothing more satisfying than grinding peppercorns in a pepper shaker. I think I was like 20 years old before I realized the pepper didn't come from the ground already pre-ground up. I didn't actually know there's such thing as a peppercorn. I really want to love aromatic tobaccos, but they never taste as good to me personally as non-aromatic tobaccos. I just had Lane 1Q about a half hour ago. Perfectly fine. I don't know. There's not a depth of experience in aromatics as much as there are in non-aromatics. I've even tried to cheat. I've I've done this in the last couple of weeks. I would take a little bit of Lane 1Q and just sprinkle some on the top of a normal bowl, and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get the best of both worlds. I'm gonna get the richness and the depth and the thickness of like a Virginia Burley bowl, but I'm also gonna be able to add the sweetness. I thought I was a genius. Like, how could this go wrong? I'm being dead serious. On the charring light, you feel like you're home free. I'm getting some sweetness on the top. I got Lane 1Q on the top layer. I get a nice vapor down below. This is going to be like a black and tan beer. This is going to transition in a magical way. Wrong. It doesn't. It ends up being, I hate to say it, but I think this is a lesson from Frankenstein and the Fly. When you try to beat science, it tends to beat you. So I was trying to have my cake and eat it too. When you add an aromatic with a non-aromatic, in my experience, it ends up something in the middle, which is actually worse than either one in isolation. There's some exceptions. I had a couple of exceptions, but I'm sure there's a lot of food examples of this. Like you love two different types of foods. If you mix them together, it it would actually taste worse than either one in isolation. Just to throw out the obvious example, pizza and ice cream. I don't like goop, dross. Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure they don't jar. Well, they'll jar sticky. I do agree about the non-aromatics. Most of the time, I enjoy non-aromatics. I bring up the cooking example to mixing tobaccos because I've been experimenting with cooking recently. And what I said is completely true. You can love two things independently. But if you try to combine them together, it will end up worse than either one in isolation. I've gotten a little too adventurous with my Instapot and making soups. And you get so caught up in this idea that you can just throw anything in this one tin with no preparation. And just throw the lid on, hit a button, and in 27 minutes, you've got a pressure cooked stew that would have taken all day. But you get so caught up in that, you start thinking like, well, I can just throw in any ingredient I want and it all comes out amazing, which is true occasionally if you don't get too creative. And then I started throwing things in that just don't blend, don't mix together, and end up making like a 5 gallon bucket of soup that tasted like ass. You got to be real careful with got to be real careful with Instapots. I guess that's the lesson of the story. It's like an Oppenheimer level power addiction that you have this device in front of you that no matter what you put in it, it will liquefy and infuse within like 25 minutes. It's impressive. I think my biggest Instapot disaster story was I never knew what a leek was. Never, I should say, I never bought a leek vegetable, and became enamored with the idea of like making a leek soup. And I put so many leeks in this pot that it tasted like something that was not right for human consumption. There's there's a limit to the amount of leeks a human can can absorb in a 24-hour period, and I think I exceeded it. Mm. I undersold this Cajun cake by Cornell and Deal. I never really focused on it until now. Very respectable. Very respectable. It's in a crumble cake, which also means that you're not getting huge clumps of things that don't burn. that don't burn. I don't know why they don't make all tobaccos like this. It's almost like it's ground up like cereal. Let me just pull it out here for a second. I never knew. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's already pre-ground up into like something very fine. So when you crumple it off, you're also getting like very fine tobacco. It's interesting. I prefer it that way. Smokes like a dream, lights up like a dream, stays lit like a dream. Thanks. God, it's pepper everywhere in this point. Again, I've smoked dozens of bowls of this, but I never really focused on it. This is a tobacco worth focusing on. Perique is a Perique is a marvelous component. Excuse me. By God, I've not had a Perique experience like this in a while. I think recently I've been freight training a bowl like this whenever I get it, so I don't really even slow down and piece it apart. But man, it's like a book. It's got a story to tell. Life well, I rarely smoke at my own house anymore. So yeah, I smoke at least 2 to 3 times a week outside for the last forever in public spots, by the way. But with that said, I also live in a state. There's only I think 3, maybe 4 states in the U.S. that have extremely liberal smoking laws outside. So you can sit at a table, whether it's a restaurant, cafe, bar. 60% of them you can smoke outside and be seated. You don't have to stand in the street. So it's just easier. If I lived back in the Midwest, in Michigan or Indiana, I don't think I could. Very few spots left you can do this. The states would be North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, or Kentucky. One is probably a little more liberal than the other. I thought South Carolina would be very liberal for smoking. Not at all. Um, yes, leeks are the perique of cooking. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Super impressed with this bowl. Super impressed. Uh, One interesting piece of feedback I got the other night while smoking this pipe in public at a venue that I go to all the time. So it was not a new person that made this comment, but a new person did show up to this back patio bar I go to and was like, "Hey, nice pipe. I always wanted to smoke a pipe, but it's just too much trouble, too much hassle." Which I know exactly what they're talking about. It is a lot of hassle, but I started talking about how that's part of the aspect that I like about the hobby is that your hands are always busy. You're packing, you're lighting, you're tamping, you're trying to get a good burn. You're trying to manage a good burn. Like it's a very fussy instrument, but that's what I love about it. I think a vape pen would be the most boring thing ever. Every time you smoke a pipe, it's like building your own campfire from scratch. There's something attractive about it. There's an art to try to keep a fire burning in in your hand, which I think it's an impressive skill to have. Oh, I'm sneezing up a storm. The only thing I don't like about smoking a pipe is my lips are always chapped. I'm gonna have chapstick with me at all times. Listening to some soft jazz on Spotify, which I'd love to play, but the whole stream be taken down within seconds. It's a damn shame. I think jazz has become 90% of what I listen to these days, unless I'm working out and need to have something higher tempo. Hmm. Favorite pipe shape of all time? And it does happen to be this Ardor, the brandy pipe. This is a brandy pipe shape. It's a little shiny. It's kind of hard to tell. But I hated this pipe when I first bought it. I've talked about this before. Hated it. I was into huge pipes, large pipes. You'd have to handle. Couldn't even try to clench them. I buy big Boswell pipes, which I still have a few left. And I bought this pipe on a whim. And for what I paid for it, I was like, this pipe is crap. It's a small little toy pipe. I like big pipes. Fast forward maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months. I lended this pipe to a friend of mine when I first moved to North Carolina. He smoked it. He said it was one of the best pipes he's ever smoked, and he had smoked way longer than I had. He gave it back to me, and I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing about these small pipes? And a couple months later, I started falling in love with this pipe. It's one of the, I bring it up, it's a very interesting story. I've never actually bought something that I hated that I ended up loving, and went through such a 180 in recent memory as I have with this device right here. I'm sure there was something I bought when I was younger that went from a hate to love relationship, but this is the most notable. And then when I started falling in love with this pipe, because it is smaller, because it is lighter, because you can clench it, then I started disliking my ginormous pipes. But I don't know. It was a real education. If I had a time machine and I can go back and buy all the pipes that I think I would like now, I wouldn't buy anything I already bought except this, and I'd buy multiple brandy versions of pipes and all spigots and army mount pipes. I wouldn't buy any big chunks of wood like I have now, which are beautiful, but I'd rather clench something small. I remember, I'll never forget this quote. The friend of mine that I let borrow this pipe, he said it's like this perfect little furnace. And you can kind of get that idea, the way that it tapers. But it's the perfect little furnace. And I always remembered that quote that he mentioned. And I've never had a pipe in my mouth that felt like I've got a tight little furnace at the end of this stem. I know the bowl inside doesn't taper, but it's a visual illusion that it does. But because it's a straight down cut. But it doesn't matter. The illusion of what's happening inside the bowl is completes the picture. I don't know. But I swear I feel like it's hugging the flame. don't know. Aesthetics on pipes are very funny. Some people are attracted toward the visual appeal. Some people are attracted toward the tactile feel of how it feels in the hand, which everyone's affected by that to some extent. Um, how it hangs in the mouth, how the stem bit itself hangs on the teeth. It's just so many qualities all coming together. You know, when you light a cigar, and I had a cigarillo earlier, so I'm still an occasional cigar smoker. But the thing you're smoking just burns up. You're smoking the Hindenburg while you're on it. It's a different experience altogether. Anyway, going back to that phrase though that somebody told me that I used to smoke pipes. It was just too much work. I love the work. Oh man, that was a great pipe. I might bust out one of my bigger pipes here. It was so much pepper, man. My mouth just feels like not tongue bite, but well peppered. Very well peppered. Luckily, I haven't had like crazy tongue bite like I had back in the day. Usually, I get tongue bite the next day. I would rarely get tongue bite during the bowl or immediately after the bowl. It'd usually be the next morning, and then if you ask me, you know what blends gave me the worst tongue bite, um, I can think of two. Luxury Bullseye Flake, which I hated the fact they gave me tongue bite because I loved it. While smoking it, I enjoyed it, and then very quickly I'd pay for it. I was It was such a good blend too. I hated the fact that I had that reaction to it. And then separately, most but not all of the McBaron blends. I had to be very careful when I bought a McBaron blend about which ones I bought because I got stung a few times, stung hard actually. Um, I got stung hard one time by one of those with a 4-digit number, which 2768 or something like that. Doesn't really matter. Um, but I also had some very good McBaron blends as well. I just had to be careful. Golden, golden something. I bought 3 pounds of golden something for McBaron that I thought was fantastic. How do you define yourself as a pipe smoker? That's a multiple choice question, Lifewell. If you give me multiple choice, I will gladly choose one. Define myself as a pipe smoker. That's an interesting phrase. Here are some of the sardines that I bought. This one's very interesting. This is eel. Not technically a sardine, but challenging nonetheless. And then, let's see what we got here. And then herring fillets. Also very challenging to eat, in my opinion. I'm going to grab a pipe. I'll be right back. All right. Actually, guys, I'm going to call the night. Saturday Night Live is going to start here in about 15 minutes. So thanks for joining me this evening. Thanks for the compliments. Man, that's a lot of reflection going on there. All right. Good night, all. Take care.